Welcome to the Stories Are Soul Food podcast, presented by Cannonball Books, the kids' fiction imprint of Cannon Press.
Met a ghost of a king on the road when I first fell. Fire burning to my knees I fell. Met a ghost of a king on the road.
It's time for another sass, which, as we all know, is the Polish word for stories or soul food.
It is true.
Episode number 80-something.
Yep. I forgot to check, so I don't know what number this is.
Well, we know it's 80-something. That I can say with confidence.
Yep.
Welcome to you all. This is our most serious episode yet.
First off, you need to apologize to the pilots. That's what I heard.
I need to apologize.
No, I just heard that you need to cut the pilots a break because
snowflakes.
And so I said I would pass along this commonplace. I would rather be on the ground wishing I were flying than in the air wishing I were on the ground.
No, the pilot. Let's say the one where we took off out of Salt Lake City and hit birds and to turn around. That pilot was great. That dude, he overcame. He got me home, and he stuck with it. So full respect. He overcame. The snowflakes were in the flight attendant staff. The one for Alaska who turned around, having seen a little thunder bump us in the distance. That dude was a piece of work, and I stand by it. And
commonplace notwithstanding.
And that guy, no apologies, because there was no risk, there was no danger of any kind. He gave me a full look at it with the way he banked, like he banked my window, and he gave me a complete assessment of the airport. The whole I had a view of the entire situation. But on top of that, as we were getting off, he came out of the cockpit and he stood there as we all were getting off, and he snarkily retorted at everyone.
Oh,
so with attitude.
Okay.
So it was not. I'm not just going off of. There was
the authorial sense.
Yeah. No. He was being a piece of work as people were getting off the plane. He was being a smart aleck at people.
Wanted to get home, did you?
Yeah. It's like somebody did not want to sleep in the Best Western in Moscow.
Well,
and I can't blame him. But it is his job.
It's his
he
job.
wanted to stay in his own bed in Seattle, and
maybe fly in the morning.
No,
he didn't even have to.
No, they just canceled the flight, and there were no seats available for more than another 48 hours after that. So everybody was just kind of thrown to the wolves.
Yeah,
and it was pretty funny. But yeah, he was snarking. I was actually kind of surprised the amount of cursing and anger that was going on from the passengers. That nobody took the bait from him, because he was being really provoking as people were getting off, and everyone,
a fun little moment,
just ignored him completely. And it was really funny. He was being super flippant to everybody as they were getting off the plane.
Interesting. Is that bully syndrome or small man syndrome?
I don't even know what that was. I had no idea. There's too many variables I couldn't see.
It's always fun to try to think of which villain you're putting in. It's useful
to
study from real life. It was
pretty petty. I mean, he's definitely he was definitely a bit of a bro. He was a frat boy bro.
Oh, okay.
Just being so probably more likely the bully, but being super flippant to everybody who's getting off the plane, and about no, there are no vouchers, and we don't owe you anything, and condolences, and that to people. So
all right, well, I
was like, I'm not giving that guy a break at all. The guy out of Salt Lake, maximum break. That guy was a champ.
Bird strike guy.
Yeah. This guy was a little snowflake turkey.
Yeah, 50-50. One out of one for one. Good.
Yeah.
Bad,
see how reasonable I am.
Yeah, that's the definition of even-handed. Well, okay. Second question then. I don't remember who, but someone was asking, are there Ashtown movies in the works?
No. And there's the reminder. That's my phone, not Brian's.
We're recording a podcast, which means we
Let's
need
see here.
the reminder.
We
can cut this out. I'm joking. We don't ever cut this out.
This is a very important text from my wife, who knows that I'm podcasting.
It's part of the podcast.
She clearly trusted me to have my phone turned off, but she still thought, I'm going to send you a screen grab from Zillow during your podcast anyway, because it's important.
That housing market.
That's for you,
though.
Heather, if you listen to this one later. And now I'll know if she's not really listening to my podcast.
It's a test. That's right.
Okay, phone now off. What were we talking about?
Yeah, the people want to know: is there Ashtown movie in the
not
works?
currently. There has been now. All of my stuff is in the works in different ways, but it's not on the front burner. Ashtown's not on the front burner, and nor do I want it to be, because I'm trying to finish the series,
Right.
the book series. So that's the priority with Ashtown, is trying to finish the book series.
Yeah.
Trying to get a 100 Cupboards TV series into life, and we just cleared another hurdle with that one. But it's it's a war of attrition, and it's a long road to get somewhere.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is sure they're all under works. Are there any that are closer than the others? So the 100 Cupboards is closest.
Boys of Blur is really close.
Ooh.
As a feature. 100 Cupboards is close as a series, and those are the two closest.
Nice. That's exciting. I feel like that's a great answer to these people.
I think it's a fantastic answer. Now,
I mean, 2 books at once. That's very cool.
Yeah. So I love what's happening with Cupboards, but it's happening slowly, and I wish I could just spill all the beans about everything around it, but I can't.
Yeah. And
it's pretty awesome, and there's been a ton of opportunities for it to die, for it to fail, for it to and it's happened a lot. So the way this works, I mean, I've been cashing checks on the film rights of 100 Cupboards since it came out.
Yeah.
Various people have optioned it and it's gone away, or we've been so close to theatrical versions of major studios, different points. There's one, Disney was trying to buy it. There was an executive at Disney who badly wanted it for a theatrical project, and her boss told her that she was not allowed to actually buy it unless he was in the building. And he kept leaving the building during our pitches. So we would schedule it and we'd come in and she'd be like, okay, we're going to close the deal. And then he would get on a jet and go away somewhere with Ben Affleck. And it'd be like, love this. We'll call you. And I mean, they produced stuffed dragons. They produced merch. The whole thing was like,
oh, wow.
It was just going. And then finally, the third time we were there, to get this thing done, to like do the full thing, and he was supposed to come into the room and he left. We had warned them that because they had the right of first refusal on the project at the time, and we'd warned them, if he does this again, like if he walks out of the building again when we have scheduled this pitch, that's
a refusal.
We are going to consider this a refusal, that you've exercised your right of refusal.
Yeah.
And so the executives who wanted it were pretty upset, and he's not normally the one who would have bought. He just said he had to be there. Like he wanted to be there for it. And so we couldn't go forward with it. They couldn't go forward with it unless he actually sat in on it, and he kept bailing. So the third time he bailed, we had a great writer on it who's gone on to execute a major smash. I can't talk about what, but one of the biggest recent smashes in streaming.
Awesome.
Was the writer on the project. And so it's kind of funny. It was a little funny to sit there and just be like, watch. Oh wow, we had the right guy on it, and his wild success. Right after that, and the executive who wanted it went on to make like huge hits, and it was this thing of like,
it was a dream team, and
we really had successfully put the whole thing together, and then we weren't ever allowed to light the firework because that one dude, whose name I will not mention on this podcast, kept excusing himself and
secrets.
And he was fired later, which is not surprising. But he's still a player in the town. But he was fired. But he basically had just disempowered his executives who had just recently had the full authority to do these things on their own completely, and had said, I want to be in the room. And I don't want you taking this pitch unless I'm in the room. And
then he refused to be in the
so
room.
that was one example. But then we wandered off of Disney. We were other places. We were all over the map. We had tons of people come after it. And so for it to be where it is right now, and to be sort of like inching, like at every hurdle, I've expected that to happen. It's like, okay, it's been a decade, and I'm expecting then that thing to happen. It's going to fizzle. The next one's going to go away. The guy's going to leave the room. That this executive's going to get fired, and that's actually been the case. Multiple executives have been fired out. Out of the studio. Executives who were supportive have left, and new ones have come in, and we're like, okay, now we have to reactivate this person, and then we've done it. Like, and it's gone forward. And
that's fun.
It's like, okay, we're here. A pilot episode is being written right now, and the next step would be a green light to production or not. We're at the end of the road.
Okay,
so that's Cupboards. Boys of Blur's feature, and that one I can say we're partnered with Steph Curry's company.
No way.
And it's which is funny because before that we were partnered with LeBron James's company on Boys of Blur, and as a series, and now we're partnered with Steph Curry's production company as a feature, which is amusing to me.
So you guys adding basketball to Boys of Blur?
It's
feels like it's a once in a lifetime.
For some reason with this project, we're working exclusively with NBA players' production companies. But yeah, we're moving forward on that one, and I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be pretty fun.
That's awesome. Okay, well that's a great update. We're all thankful.
I am. Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
And the thing is, like, I fully expect Cupboards. Like, I have at every turn, I have expected Cupboards to not happen because that's the way most of these things go.
Yeah.
I've sold many things.
So is this like
that don't happen?
Crawling through a desert toward water or climbing a cliff? Which metaphor?
Which metaphor? I've talked about wildebeest going through crocodile rivers before.
Okay.
It's more like sending intellectual property through the crocodile river. And you're like, go, all of you make it to the other side. Every one of you, all of my shiny ideas will make it. And then the jaws come up and just like pull things down. And cha.
Okay.
It's more like that, Brian. Do you understand?
That actually helped a lot.
Yeah, good. I have other stuff too that's moving forward and is exciting, but just not book based.
Right.
So
okay. We'll ask about that metaphor some other time.
Yeah. We'll unpack those things later.
Yeah. Oh, seeing your sticker makes me think of other updates. We'll save that for another time.
The update on that is that we have a hearing now slated on the appeal of my son's conviction.
Okay, so the Soviet Moscow
Stickergate
gets a hearing.
There's a hearing in October. Initial hearing on the appeal of my son's conviction for his horribly criminal behavior of having exercised his free speech
to put safe removable stickers
in protesting illegal arrests. So city of Moscow illegally arrested people during a psalm sing during the height of COVID things. My son placed non-damaging vinyl stickers that said Soviet Moscow on poles with the thousands,
because Soviet.
Yeah, and then used the slogan from the city that they were using to justify themselves: enforced because we care.
And that's real. That's what's funny to me.
That's straight out of Orwell.
Enforced because we care was not part of the satire.
So they put up signs all over the place, including on poles, incidentally, with weird little pictures of people wearing masks, and said enforced because we care. And then they arrested people at an outdoor psalm saying. So outdoors, the psalm saying for not wearing masks. Amusingly, the people they arrested were all exempt from the mask mandate. And the mask mandate did not apply to religious services either. So it was and illegal. The whole thing was illegal. The arrests were illegal. That's admitted. That is known.
Yeah.
Nobody's contesting that. The arrests were illegal.
Those have all been resolved.
No, there's a lawsuit.
Yes.
Those all that they arrested and charged people and dropped the charges pretty immediately.
Yeah.
And then my son and his brother put up stickers in protest. Soviet Moscow enforced because we care. And they were then had their whole legal drama began at that point. We're now like 2 years in, and the legal fees, the legal meter is just running like mad. It's extremely painful.
Yeah.
Which I think was the point,
Yeah.
So we have a police department that has hidden evidence.
And I don't want to gloss over that little detail, but I will drop the donate to the Stickergate campaign in the description in case you're looking for ways.
It'd be super helpful actually, because it's one of those things where, it's like we whenever donations come in, we just stick it in the legal retainer with the appellate attorneys right now. So my son lost a full ride to school as a result of the prosecution. He was in the running for a ROTC scholarship, which he was immediately disqualified for when they filed criminal prosecution.
Man.
There were decent stakes, but it's the only time in the history of the town, before or since, that anyone has ever been cited, let alone prosecuted, for placing something on a pole.
Yeah.
And people still continuously, you could walk around town right now and that every pole is covered with signs and flyers and stickers.
We've all been taking pictures and posting them to the Facebook group.
Permitted poles and permitted stickers. But it was selective prosecution. It was malicious prosecution. It was politically motivated, and it was
anti-free speech.
Yeah. I mean, the boys were, my son was cuffed and on the sidewalk, wasn't Mirandized, interrogated in handcuffs, in custody, like a full-on custodial interrogation without Miranda. Cops were
That's
angry.
All very bad.
Then the video was hidden. They defied subpoena for more than a year before an officer admitted to prosecutors that there was video, that it existed, after we'd been, reassured forever and mocked for even claiming there was video. And then we were not really allowed to argue a First Amendment defense at trial. So the jury was instructed that their free speech has nothing to do with this. There's no issue of free speech. The only question is, was a sticker placed on a pole? And if it was, you have to say guilty. That's
there was indeed a sticker placed on the
pole. So
our
lawyers were not allowed to say that this is the only time this has ever been prosecuted. Our lawyers were not allowed to show pictures of other stickers in town, including politically motivated ones attacking our church and our family.
Those are all things that a judge would rule on, right? Like you do.
So those are all the grounds for appeal. So he was convicted, which was not a surprise. We were actually expecting that in our local, very political
welcome
magistrate court.
Soviet Moscow.
We were expecting that in Soviet Moscow. And now we're moving up the chain. So the appeal is not a retrial, the way appeals work. The appeal is a review of all of the magistrate judge's rulings, of all the things that she disallowed and allowed. There's quite a few of them to review. So his conviction is under appeal. They prosecuted me as well, because I had made the stickers, even though I was asleep at the time when the stickers were applied. And then after 20 months of me having to incur legal fees defending myself, they said they just dropped the charges, and said the new evidence had come to light. When in fact, it was the prosecuting attorney who was obsessed with it, was moving to Seattle, and no one else wanted to touch it. And so
that's a form of evidence.
Yeah. So it's like, but they can't say that because that opens them up to, problems.
Just questions.
Questions. So there's new evidence. The new evidence, it turns out, is that I had nothing to do with it. And like, that's, not an issue. My younger son, the county, because he was a juvenile, had prosecuted him, and they got so sick of it. At one point, the city of Moscow tried to extort a settlement from us. That was a civil settlement, us agreeing not to sue them, basically, ever. And they would drop the charges. And it's illegal.
If we stop, you stop.
Yeah. So, but it's illegal to extort a civil settlement using criminal prosecution. So you can't, under threat of criminal prosecution, extort any kind of civil settlement from a person, from a citizen. With like, it's the threat of like, we'll continue prosecuting
that's
you.
very bad.
No, yeah. So if you
like
agree
Russian
not to,
levels of
so if you agree not to sue us for what we've done to you already, we'll stop doing it. If you don't agree, we'll keep doing it. And they did that. The city did that, and the county just said, "We're out. Like this, we can't keep." And they, the county prosecutor, much to his credit, even though he'd been along for the ride to that point, was like, "We have nothing to do with this. We don't stand behind that. We can't." And he immediately just said, "My son could write a 5-page paper on the importance of civil disobedience, and they'll just drop the charges." And,
okay, so that's your younger son.
Yeah. And so he wrote a zesty one that I really enjoy. And
you can find all this online.
Yeah, that one's online.
When you go to donate to the Wilson Stickergate.
So yeah, so his is pretty funny. He wrote it on exploring civil disobedience in the case of Stickergate. And his charges were dropped. My charges were dropped after 19 months because it turns out I wasn't there. I was asleep. Shocker. Then my college son was convicted and is on appeal.
Well, currently. I do like that you can laugh about this.
Oh, it's hilarious. I mean, this is, you have to have perspective. I mean, it's very funny. It is very, very funny. Yeah. And it's wildly petty, but it doesn't make it not real, and it doesn't make it not expensive. And they were threatening jail time, like significant jail time. When they started out, they charged me with 13 misdemeanors, and which would have been, up to 6 months per. It's like that's the maximum. Now they're doing that to scare you,
right?
It's like that's the max. So they're looking at, with my son, my son at the time, he was 18. It's like they're saying, okay, you just lost your scholarship because you're now under criminal prosecution. That's gone. That possibility's gone, and we're going after you for up to 6.5 years in prison. Then your little brother for up to 3 years in juvie. And it's over something that's never been illegal in this town, has never been enforced in this town.
And
but
still isn't.
But
because you can find all of the phone numbers for the people who put the things on poles under the signs.
There have been newspaper stories about the guy placing poles, or signs looking for his dog. And it's, it's like big stories about Aspen the lost dog and how many hundreds of things he's putting on poles and how it worked and he found his dog. And there's no permit process. There's nobody to ask permission of. There's no way to ask permission. So doing it without permission is like, well, there's no permission process. There's no permit.
Yeah.
So it doesn't exist because nobody cares and they just allow it. It's all just allowed. Always has been, always will be.
It's such a good example of how standing up to power, often the best move is that humorous one. Just the fact that those stickers drove them crazy enough.
Yeah. Well, it's been,
it's you guys.
As wildly expensive as it's been, it's been, like the largest expense on our books for the last year and a half has been legal defense around stickers.
Yeah.
But it was, what was it? It was my sons who made fun of illegal arrests at a worship service. Then those are the kind of characters I want them to be. So to tie it back into, the story, what do I want them to be? My daughters just regret that they didn't go with them. They just wish they'd been there. And so I'm thrilled. That
I've been thinking about what you said last week about the primary target is never make things easier. And that seems like a great example.
No.
It would be way easier to
it's super easy. Just put your head down and just wait. But the fact that they really, after those arrests were made, the fact that they really wanted to go out there and poke the bear.
Yeah.
And poke the tyrant and laugh at the tyrant and make fun of the tyrant is fantastic. I was.
If you can offer, this provides a perfect counterpoint. My neighbors just started wearing masks again.
Right.
That's like point and counterpoint right there. And this is a 4-year-old who's out in masks.
Outside.
Front
yard, outside.
In his
years
own
later.
House, 2 years in.
Yeah. Sad.
Wearing a mask.
Poor kid.
I know. That's how we feel about it.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I actually was the thing I was angriest about was losing my day in court. I got all the way up to the point where my son got convicted and it was time for me to be on trial. It was my turn for a trial.
Nate was in the mirror. Like,
oh yeah, jury trial. And I was so like, yes, because unlike my son who had a scholarship to lose and he had stakes and he did a great job. He did well. And he testified. And
Wow.
there's no reason for him to testify, but he wanted to. He's like, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to say what I want to say. He got up there and his first thing he was saying was like, yeah, I put these on polls. It's like, I'm not trying to say I didn't put these on polls. We're not doing this thing where it's like, well, you don't really know it was me. And like, no, I did this. I did this thing. And this is why I did it. And this is what I was trying to do. And so then the jury instructions are, well, you heard it out of his own mouth. You have to say guilty. I was ready. I was all fired up. I was ready to have my day in court.
I think they probably know. I think they probably knew you were ready.
And then it was, never mind. We're dropping the charges against you right when it was time to set the trial date. And we had filed motion after motion for a year and a half to dismiss the charges. And nope. We got to keep paying the lawyers, got to keep bleeding money. And then never mind. Turned out, never mind. I was like, oh boy, I just felt like such a ripoff that I had to pay the bill for a year and a half to be prosecuted and then have them chicken out at the last second when I actually got to have, like, I was going to get to climb in the ring and I was going to get to do this.
Yeah. Man, that's one thing I do love about our town and our community is when something like that happens, you can watch people getting ready. Like, they're excited.
Yeah.
Like, here we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it's, we're imitating leadership and, the Bible.
Yeah.
But it's like, here's our chance. And it feels like, you don't always get the chance of COVID coming through to kind of like everybody, hey, you get a big test run at something hugely important. And it's been fun to look back on it, evaluate how long it took you to realize what situation we were in, to read the story. It's a fun exercise to look back over the past 2 years and just grade yourself.
Yep.
Oh, I messed up here. I thought this was going this way here.
It's actually really important. So anybody listening, hold yourself accountable to things that you said or believed.
Yeah.
So, you watch the CDC switch, like just recently, switch. And they just issued a statement that would have gotten them Twitter banned 6 months ago.
Twitter banned.
Yeah.
And they just made an official policy.
Yeah. So if
you don't have to vaccinate, you don't have to isolate.
No, you would have been Twitter banned for this. And now the CDC is saying it. So it's really important that if you were saying something, if you're maintaining that all you need is orange juice and you're going to be fine, then you need to retract that. You need to realize, yeah, you were wrong. You're a moron.
Yeah.
If you were saying that, it's like the vaccine will help in such and such a way, or the vaccine will kill you and you're going to die and you're an over conspiratorial freak out about the vax, you need to retract that. Like there's all, like, just look at
there's
it.
enough game tape now that we can be honest. Like the fact
on both sides,
right.
There's enough game tape on both sides for people to realize that you ran your mouth and you should be able to look back and then hold yourself accountable with what actually happened. People who prophesy need to hold themselves accountable. And now the future has happened. You can check what you said against the future. And unfortunately, we don't do that. People don't like to do that.
I mean, you look back and me being at the store buying some random flour and rice is pretty funny. That's like right when the thing was first shut down, I was like, I guess I should get some extra food. That moment right there is it's not bad, but it is a little bad. I mean, it's just like that cow, that's sort of like, oh no, fear reacted, reactive.
I think that was probably an okay move.
It's just funny to look back on it. And,
it is, but it's also in the situation with the stickers, we had a ton of conversations around the dinner table when my kids were really angry and upset and frustrated because my son was talking to his cousin and cops came up and told him he needed to be masking. They needed to be masking. Right. They were outside and he and his cousin were talking outside of a private building. They had just stepped outside to get some air. They were not required to be wearing a mask.
Yeah.
They were family. 2 cops roll up on them and say, hey, we're going to need to have you put masks on because the mayor has declared. And my son just said, yeah, we're not going to do that. His cousin, she said, oh, I guess this is what we're doing. And so she just started filming. And he had a very slow, long conversation with them about rights and the Constitution and, and everything else. Then they were saying that, like, we're going to drive around the block. And if you're still here without a mask, we're going to have to, like, we could arrest you. Like, this was the threat. We could take you to jail. And so he stood there on the sidewalk and waited for them. And they chickened out. They didn't come back around. It's like
he got arrested later.
But so he already had that interaction. And then he went to city. He was on the mayoral youth council. He was a friend of the mayor. He was trying to talk to the mayor. He went to the city council. He was speaking at city council meetings. They were just ignoring the local citizenry. They were, ignoring all these things. And his frustration was very, very real. And so when we had a lot of conversations around what is the biblical and best way to protest? What is the right way? What's the best way to be a character here? Because you look at summer of 2020 and buildings burning and destruction and vandalism and yada, yada, yada.
Oh, it's so funny.
And we were talking about all of that. We were talking about all the riots and the cities burning. And we had a lot of conversations about the importance of not damaging private property. You don't damage property, like that's theft.
Yeah.
Like there's
not
things
a protest.
there's things we don't do. So you can say, I have to protest. I need to go make noise. I need to be a rock in their shoe. I need to be a thorn in their foot. I want to be a burr in their side, etc. I want to force them into this highly visible public conflict, which is what he did. Like his protest, they took the bait and they actually ended up like owning themselves by prosecuting him. Like for more than a year, they made themselves a national joke.
It's in process.
Yeah. It's like, if they had ignored it, like if they'd ignored it, some local people would have laughed. They would have peeled the stickers off. He put up like 90 stickers and there were 17 still up the next morning. Like people would just like pulled them off. By lunch, they would have been gone.
Yeah.
It would have been a joke for a few people and people would have tee-heed.
Yeah.
It's like, and that would have been it. But instead they threw him on the sidewalk in cuffs and they prosecuted him and it became this national joke. It was in national news and he succeeded. What he wanted to do was highlight their folly and, make it clear what characters they were being.
Yeah.
Like which characters are you being?
And that's not saying everyone agrees with it, but it was a watershed moment where you get to see which side you're on.
Yeah. So you are being, he said, Soviet Moscow enforced because we care. He named them as characters. And then they acted like those characters. They put him in cuffs on the sidewalk without Miranda. They interrogated him without any of the normal legal constitutional protections. They prosecuted him as the only one in the history of the town to be prosecuted under a defunct ordinance next to no spitting on the sidewalk, that's never been utilized before because he criticized them. They acted exactly like the characters he named.
Right.
But we had a lot of conversation beforehand about, no spray paint.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're not damaging stuff. Now there could be a case made for public property damage. Like you could make that case. And I think it's thin, it's a thin case, but the discussion could be had about public property. But we had a lot of conversations about it. Yeah. And I told him, don't put any stickers on private property even. Like just keep it in the public forum, keep it on public property.
Well, I mean, you guys have had tires slashed during this thing. I mean,
he's had his truck spray painted. So his truck was vandalized. We've had so many slashed tires. He had a death threat come in against him.
Right.
I mean, like there's
a clear line between how you it's so sad we've lost the Christian political resistance theory. Like, how do you do this like a Christian?
Yep. And so his laughter, his joke, and his cheerful, clean cut resistance has been really effective. It really has been. It's also been exhausting and expensive and everything else.
Well, I was going to ask,
but there's a reason why it's a big deal to us. And so there's been a lot of people who've reached out to us and just said, why are you still doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And just, if you stop for a second and you say, realize that a city, a municipal government reserved the right unto itself to imprison someone who makes fun of it.
Yeah.
Like, just let that sink in.
You don't want to live
You don't want to live there.
That's not the place.
So
this is our home.
Yeah. So if they said, hey, you know what? Just plead guilty and we'll charge you $200 and you can walk. Like, and then in his conviction, it was, I don't remember how long probation was. And it was like, $500 of fines or something and 90 days of whatever probation. And I don't remember what all it was. It's like, why wouldn't we just receive that? Why would we fight that on appeal and spend another $100,000? Like, why would we be applying for a home equity line right now? Why would we be doing that in order to fight this? And the answer is because I don't want to live in that world.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in that city, and I don't want other people to live in that city, and neither do you. Nobody does.
Yeah.
And it'd be really easy to say, it's just $500.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Well, also the sheer stubborn cussedness that you've been blessed with,
Yeah.
I think, is another part.
Yes. Yes.
But
No, that explains why, that explains like the reactive why. But if you think about it,
there's a principled why.
Like what's the point? So there's the character personality why of like, yeah, I've got a certain mulishness to me. That's true. There's a cussedness is a good word. But it really does come down to the fact of do you want to live in a town where a city, do you want to live in a state where a city has the right? And if we lay down this legal precedent, like where this conviction happens, this is legal precedent. This is a big deal. This is what actually happens.
Roe v. Wade, we just spent a long time overturning legal precedent.
So yeah, the next time we put up a church flyer on a telephone pole, someone could go to jail. And then Planned Parenthood flyers could go up next to it and nothing could happen.
That's bad.
That is
really bad.
That's not where we want to live. So if the city's going to reserve unto itself the right to send you to prison for criticizing it. Now, we're not saying we will send you to prison, but we have that authority.
Yeah.
It's
in the code that we've never enforced.
We could send you to prison for 6 months for every sticker, technically.
And this kind of law is not like that's city council, right? You just need, I think the city council is the one who can get that kind of law. It's a municipal misdemeanor, right? Which is pretty easy, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's not a ton of work for the city council to add a new
one and just be like, I can put you in prison for 6 months every time you do this thing I don't like.
Right.
And if they just feel their oats and they can do that and nobody resists, nobody fights, they won't stop. And a lot of places have learned that the last 2 years. Like it will actually, it will actually keep going. So as unreasonable as it is, as unreasonable of them as it is, it's wildly unreasonable of them. It is wildly unreasonable of us. Like, and to completely tell the truth, I mean, like when they got popped and when the cops woke me up and called me and said they'd gotten popped putting stickers up, I was expecting to get a ticket. I was expecting some like infraction ticket and I would have just paid it.
Right.
Like I didn't know the law. I didn't, I know I grew up in this town and there's flyers and stickers on everything. But if they'd given me a ticket, my son's got a ticket for putting up stickers.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. There we go. It wouldn't have been that interesting, but 13
I paid for the stickers. They
decided, and ultimately, it's my cussedness, but ultimately they decided I had to fight because the prosecution came and it was 13 misdemeanors each. There was no alternative but to throw down. Like they pushed it and I had to throw down all the way because it's not like we can just say at that moment, yes, I'm guilty of 13 misdemeanors and just throw yourself on their mercy of you could send me to prison for up to 6.5 years if you want. Just tell me how long you want me to go.
Yeah.
And my last name is Wilson and I'm in this town and I know you hate me and you're doing this to me and only me for the first time in the history of this place.
Right. The conversations.
Yeah. So when they came with 13 misdemeanors at each of us, including me, who've been asleep, it's like the fight was on at that moment. And so by the time we got to the end and then they convicted my son and damage has been done and so on. The reason why we're appealing is cussedness. And also we don't want this to be the legal precedent in our town. This can't be. This isn't it's not just for us. And our lawyers they're not our political clones. It's like we have civil liberties lawyers who are very, very much old guard constitutional liberties, ACLU types who see exactly what we see.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying they're not like not all approaching this from the same angle.
No,
One dimensional. It's
at all.
This is very American.
Yeah,
Like
these
an
guys,
American liberty.
yeah, no,
question.
our legal team is not. They're not right wing in the least bit. They see the constitutional issues, and they see that for a city to prosecute criticism of itself is a very, very dangerous, slippery slope.
Yeah.
And it really, really is. It's extremely dangerous, and it's extremely dangerous when you happen to be a conservative Christian in a time like ours. If you can be prosecuted, if a city can decide to prosecute you for speech, and as a conservative Christian, speech that they deem to be criminal, you're in trouble. Like, that's just not a world that we can afford to live in. We have to fight.
Yeah.
We have to fight that. We have to fight it hard. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. But I was extremely proud of my kids, my boys, for doing what they did.
Yeah.
My only major complaint is that they got themselves caught.
Spartan style.
And I would say, looking back at reviewing the game film, it's kind of funny. I would say that we had too much. This is a weird thing to say, but reviewing the game film is important. I didn't know they were going out that night to do it. I knew in general that they were going to, at some point they were going to put stickers up. I knew we had talked about not damaging stuff. We had talked about not damaging property. I knew this was likely to happen. I really wish that I had done a better job equipping them with a suspicion of law enforcement. Okay. I wish I had, knowing where they were in terms of desiring to protest. I wish I had sat them both down and said, okay, so you know how we respect cops? You know how your uncle is a cop and we love him? Mm-hmm. You know how your great uncle is a cop and we love him? You know how we have this kind of reflexive respect for the badge? Well, don't ever talk to the police. Don't
you don't have to. That is law. You don't
just know your rights. And if you are in fact being harassed by a cop, if somebody's coming at you, if they're trying to intimidate you, if they're putting you in cuffs and putting you on the sidewalk, you say one word, and that is lawyer. And that is, you just don't.
I was going to ask if you had advice for others who are trying to imitate or move forward in situations that are similar.
Yeah. Just know that there are tons of good cops, and it's a brutally difficult job, and I have a ton of respect for the job.
Yeah.
And I think one of the saddest things about it is watching how jaded my kids all are. All 5 of my kids are about law enforcement now. Having their brothers and having, the 2 of them going through it, and the girls all seeing their brothers go through it, being treated the way they were treated, seeing my sons watching cops perjure themselves in court,
saying that's not how it happened, and then
over a sticker misdemeanor.
And then it's perjuring because of their own testimony, but also they've reversed it, right? Like there's been enough.
No, there's enough testimony in hearings under oath. There's one officer that the prosecution was very determined to not put on the stand, because of some stuff under oath that had already happened. And
gotcha.
It's but then other guys, just a guy got on the stand and just not true. It's just not true. These 2 guys are just not telling the truth.
Yeah.
On the stand in a jury trial in order to get a kid convicted. And that, you watch that. Now, tons of people have known that already. I was already pretty suspicious. It's especially in federal stuff, but local, small town.
Yeah.
Well,
you turn to
small town police department. I wasn't that cynical. I was cynical about ATF, being however old I was when Ruby Ridge went down a couple hours north of us.
Yep.
It's you get real cynical real fast. But there's plenty of people, plenty of communities that have known forever that you don't trust the police.
Yeah.
The Black community has known that for a long time.
Yeah.
That
it's not anything new you're saying.
No, you don't trust the police. But when you're in small town community, Idaho, you don't have those hard bitten, dirty cop detectives from the big city.
Well, that's what it's funny to me. It's the peer pressure and small town politics, not this huge, dark criminal organization.
Yep.
You just watch people, that person is being this way because of these local motivations.
Yeah.
They're for who they work with.
Yep.
Who asked them to do this thing.
And so that's something that you can't unsee when you're a kid. Can't unsee a cop lying on the stand in your own little small town to try to get you. You know, it's like that's, and your sisters
really hurts. Yeah.
And your sisters can't unsee that either.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
yeah.
So they're, you know, that's pretty interesting. So
yeah,
that's the biggest change. I think that's the biggest failure that I had as a father going into it, is I didn't prepare them for that. I didn't prepare them for complete mistrust of law enforcement if they should be used as a weapon by the city government against you. Which is really unfortunate. It's such an important role. You know, it's such a, I mean, like, cops are essential. Law and order is essential.
Have to have it.
Yeah. I mean, it's key, but if you can't trust it, if it might turn on you, then holy cow, you know? So anyway, it's been quite a ride, and that's more than an update. We basically turned the whole episode into this.
Well,
but that's
we'll save the other question.
We just got the update that we have a hearing coming in the appeal. So it's like, oh, great. Let's just keep that meter running, shall we? I really have been grateful for it. I've been grateful for the opportunity to go through it and to have this be kind of like backstory for my kids.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, I'm sitting here grateful for, you know, all the women who went shopping in stores with their children and, you know, without having to wear a mask when everyone else was. That peer pressure. And this is just a huge example of things to be grateful for. Watching it happen and getting everybody to say, hey, look, you're getting a little chance to get immune to peer pressure, a little chance to stand up to authority.
Oh, you can. It's tangible. It's a super tangible thing. Everybody over the last 2 years has felt that.
Yep.
When you feel that, wait, everybody is looking at you. And if you know, so for example, if you had a fake mask, you know, one of those like totally porous ones that you could put on, but it looks real, and you're in a crowd and everybody turns and stares at you and gives you stink eye because you don't have one on. If you would feel better, like relief, putting on your fake one, that tells you something.
Yeah.
It's not about any kind of conviction.
Yeah.
About the science or whatever. Because if people believe that masks are really important, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like that, they can believe that. Like that's an opinion. That's something they can believe and they can act on. But if you are just complying to comply, or to be seen as complying.
Yeah, you're not even complying. You're just,
I just need to be seen as complying.
That's peer pressure.
That's a real, and we've all felt it the last 2 years. It's a very tangible, crackly, static electricity.
And man, I heard so many stories of the women and the kids getting cussed at and shouted at. I think I may be tall enough and with a beard enough that people left me alone. Which is funny to me because that's bullies too. That's bully behavior.
No, I got cussed at. I was also at a Hollywood party on on a rooftop Hollywood party, a very, very she party. And it was funny because we're on Sunset, you know. So actually, it's as cliche as it could be. We're on the rooftop of a hotel on Sunset, and we had to be. We're down there, and it was great. We're schmoozing and chatting with people, and nobody's wearing a mask. I mean, nobody's masking, and it turns out that this is overwhelmingly for everybody. I'm there with Aaron Wrench, my production partner, and for all the people we're talking to, this is their first time out in 2 years. Like 2 years. And we've been just doing our thing. And so here we are. And everybody's talking about, everybody's like, it turned out it was like prom of like, it was like the coming out prom, coming out of quarantine. Then it was amazing. And then I realized that peer pressure can go the other way too, which hadn't really dawned on me because this executive came out to me from a big studio and said, it's like, man, I brought my mask, but I walked in and I was like, I guess we're not doing that. I guess we're not doing that. He's like, and I looked around, I was like, I can't put this on. Nobody's got theirs on. I can't wear this when nobody's wearing theirs. And he's like, I just left I can't believe I'm not wearing it right now. I can't believe it's so weird. I'm like, am I like playing Russian roulette? Like, am I going to die? Like, I don't, and I was thinking maybe, because your immune system is so
compromised from
is
2
so
years of
sheltered. Me, I've been looking doorknobs for 2 years, so I'm like, I'm solid.
Better watch out. Every hand you shake could be your last, guy.
But he had this weird like joy and like shock, but it was so funny for him processing the reverse peer pressure. He's been wearing a mask for a long time for the opposite pressure. And he came in, he said, as he was walking in, he was putting it on and saw that no one else had it. And it was just like I can't,
I like that dialogue.
And it couldn't,
I guess we're not
doing this. And he fully believes in it. It wasn't just that it was a peer pressure thing. He truly believes that the mask will keep him safe. And he truly believed that he was wildly unsafe at the party. In terms of talking to him.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah. And so in talking to him, he knew, or I knew in scare quotes, really believed he was taking his life in his hands.
It's a real rush.
He was taking his life in his hands to not be wearing his mask at this party.
His first roller coaster.
But no one else is. And I can't be that guy. And that was, which I found.
Aren't humans awesome?
Yeah.
Humans are great.
And who knew that August of 2022 would be our mask episode?
That's funny.
But here we are.
Yeah, like you said, game film's important. If we don't ever review it, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I think that we can all safely say that nobody, not one listener, and neither of us got through the last 2 years without screwing up.
Yeah, totally.
There's no way we could look back and say, well, I did those 2 years perfectly.
I was correct about all the things.
Every one of my remarks, every one of those articles that I believed on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
All those projections.
Yeah.
Everything I shared about how horrible the vaccines were going to be.
My bold claims, either direction. Yeah, totally.
My party line science, my conspiratorial anti-science, it just, nobody was right. Like it just.
Yeah. We've all had that moment of like, oh shoot, I guess that was a fake article.
Yeah, bozo.
Yeah.
So none of us can say we did that perfectly, and all of us need to have the humility to look back and find the places where we were wrong, and realize, yep, we were wrong, and then hopefully not be such an idiot moving forward.
That is the hope.
Yeah. And on that note,
we're done.
We're done with SASF for this week. See ya.
Hi, it's Brian Cole here, wanting to let you know how you can support the Stories Are Soul Food podcast. You can do that by checking out Canon Plus. Head over to mycanonplus.com. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the SASF podcast. We'll hopefully be seeing you at mycanonplus.com.